Hey guys, it's Cameron, and I wanted to share with you exactly what companies are looking for and ultimately what you should do to land a tech role in the next 30 days. Now, this is going to be something that you can actually avoid ghostings, avoid rejection emails with, and ultimately disappointment in total to ultimately get the tech role that you're looking for in a very short period of time. Now, if you don't know who I am, my name is Cameron. I'm a six-figure, 23-year-old ex-Apple engineer, and I actively help people into the industry of tech, whilst also actively working in the industry myself. So I've basically seen it all. I know exactly how to be hired by some of the world's biggest companies, and I basically help other people to do the exact same. Now, we've got quite a lot of information to go through in a short period of time. So let's actually just kind of dive straight into the process from start to finish so you understand the entire process behind breaking into tech. Okay, so it's about a four-step process in total. Now, the first step is going to actually be the pre-application, right? So before you actually submit an application, before you actually apply, we just need to make sure that everything is in order first. Now, there's plenty of different areas that you do need to focus on. So you need to actually focus on your CV, right? You need to make sure that that's detailed, clear, and concise. You need to make sure that you have a cover letter available if the company is wanting one as well. You want to make sure that your LinkedIn is as best as possible because that is your public visibility to the companies, right? Without your LinkedIn there, without having detailed information on your LinkedIn and presented in the correct way, you can actually turn away recruiters and companies who would have offered you an interview if it was a lot easier to read, there was a lot more value there, so on, so on. So you need to make sure that your LinkedIn is sound as well. Now, the pre-application is also going to cover your portfolios, right? So that your portfolios, the way that they're structured and engineered, but also the actual projects on the portfolios and what they're showcasing, what skill sets that they're showing as well, and ultimately how valuable that they are. Now, a bit of a side note, if you want some kind of like tips or advice regarding projects, never make a big project. Never make a 6 month long project and then take it to the market by putting it on your portfolios, hoping that that'll give you a role in tech. Because that's what most people do. And this is something that I had to find out the hard way. I spent about 8 months building out this really cool cloud project when I was like 17, 18, thinking that, once I actually put it on my portfolios, I'm going to get loads of interest, loads of recruiters blowing up my inbox and emails. I'm going to get like loads of company interviews and all of these things. Ultimately, what just happened was I wasted 8 months and I didn't actually get the value that I thought I was going to get by the end of it. So for projects, you want to make sure that they're very small and concise, but you can also make them detailed. And what I mean by that is you can create a project that will solve a certain tech solution. So it could be automation, it could be something like that, using like other websites and their data, and then kind of like connecting it through like an API. But you need to add like a little bit extra to it, but ultimately it's not a big project, right? It's got a very specific use case, and that is the only use case that it has. Now, it may have additional features added to it, but overall it solves only that one use case. So you want to do that because that makes sure that your portfolios and your projects specifically are standing out to showcase your skill sets in many, many different areas and not just one big project. So that's a little bit of a side note regarding portfolios and projects. Just wanted to drop some free value there for you guys. But it's also about just kind of preparing for the storm in general, right? So just kind of making sure that everything is in order to completely maximize the response rates from companies, which is the ultimate goal of this step. The pre-application step, so this is before you apply for anything, before you reach out to any recruiters, it's about increasing the response rate that you'll get from companies when you do decide to apply. And that's a very important aspect because most people will think that just kind of tweaking your CV a little bit here and there, or adding in some buzzwords into your LinkedIn headline, or doing 3 projects extra, or anything like that. They feel like typically as a candidate, they feel like that's enough, which it isn't. There's obviously a lot of specific details that go into each and every one of them. But overall, it's to increase the response rate that you get from companies. Because of course, you want to maximize that. You want to maximize the responses you get because that means that will then relay into the actual interviews that you get as well. So that's step number 1, pre-application. Now, step 2 is going to be the actual application itself. So that's actually going to be, applying, finding the right jobs for you, so the right tech roles, speaking to recruiters, driving conversions essentially, right? Conversions to interviews. That's essentially what this is. Conversions from applications to interviews. And that is ultimately the goal, right? The goal is to obtain interviews based on the applications that you're submitting. So yeah, it's going to cover like applying, making sure that you're applying with the right CV, you're applying with the right cover letter. You're not kind of sending the wrong cover letter with the wrong name of the company to a different company and that kind of stuff. And just ultimately making sure that you are finding the roles that are best suiting you and what you ideally want to go into. And then from there, actually applying to those roles. So step one is going to be increasing the response rate from companies, which is of course going to relay into applications, which is step two. And that's ultimately going to give you more of a response rate, which directly feeds into obtaining the interviews that you're looking for. So that's step two. Now, in terms of step three, that's actually going to be the interview loops, right? So with the interview loops, that's actually going to be going through the interviews, answering technical or behavioral questions, and maybe it'll be in like a group setting, or it'll be like a coding assessment or something like that. But in order to actually ace this step, so the third step, you want to make sure that you do some of the following. You want to research the company and also the recruiter, the interviewer as well, to actually prepare for the interview, right? Without any sort of preparation, you're going to be mainly relying on your state in the moment and yourself in the moment, which isn't going to give you concise specifics on what to say, what to do, the value that you should portray as well. So it's very important that you do actually research the company and the interviewer, because, and this is by far the worst thing that can happen in an interview, and this is a common mistake I see a lot of candidates making, but it's going to be, when you're in an interview, in the first 5 to 10 minutes, the interviewer will typically say something like, so what do you know about the company? And you would be surprised at how many people that I've, coached who now don't do this, or people that I've just spoken to in the industry in general who used to do this as well, or who still currently do this, but they draw a blank. They don't know what to say because they haven't done their research, right? They don't even know what the company does, how they make their money, where their offices are located, or how many employees that they have. And that genuinely is probably the worst, because you would think it would be like a technical interview question that they ask you that's kind of basic and you don't know the answer. By far, this is the worst question to not have an answer to, because it means that you haven't done your research. It gives a sense to the interviewer that you haven't done any research, you just kind of randomly applied, you're not taking it seriously, and it just sets off the interview from a bad start, right? So you want to make sure that you are researching the company and interviewer as well to know more about them and their role, but also the company that you're applying for as well. Now, in terms of research, it can also be other things like brushing up over your CV, looking at the application that you submitted as well, and typically that kind of stuff. And that's going to ultimately help prepare you for the actual interview. Now, from there, it's also then going to be about actually answering the questions that you're asked, right? So they can be technical or non-technical, depending on the type of interview. But you need to make sure that you're answering the questions correctly, firstly, and also in a very correct manner, right? And the correct manner is going to be detailed but concise. Now, you also want to showcase confidence in yourself and your skill set through your answers. Now, this is done through various different tactics and strategies that I won't really get into in this video, but if you want one, let me know and I can make a whole separate one regarding the strategies for interviews. But you want to showcase your confidence in your skill set and yourself to inspire confidence in the interviewer to know that you are actually the right candidate to move forward with. Now, usually interviews, they're going to be in interview loops, and the loop just basically means it iterates over itself over time until it ends. And that's basically going to be about 3 to 4 interview rounds in total for a particular tech role, on average in the industry. But of course, if you are going for fintech, if you're going for FANG companies or AI companies, basically like the top of the industry, so some people call it, you're going to typically get around 6 to 7, maybe even 8 interviews. So it does kind of depend. But yeah, I've had like a bunch of interviews in the past. I've had ones that are like 5, 6 rounds, but they can go up even more than that, right? So it's just important to understand the full flow of the interviews, how many you're going to have, what type of interview you're going to have and when you're going to have it, and all of that surrounding information. Now, that's actually the third step. The fourth and final step is going to actually be offer negotiation. So this is actually going to be where you actually paid what you're worth, right, from the company. So the actual value exchange there. And I mean, I can give you a bit of advice regarding this actually. So I'm just try to drop some free game for you. But for actually kind of choosing the right numbers for you, you want to choose ideally between 60 and 85% of the budget range. Of course, it depends on what you have to offer, your skill sets. I'm not speaking directly with you, right? So I can't kind of choose that number at the moment for you, or kind of guide you to that number. But typically it'll be around that range. And you should never ever give a number first. And the reason for that is because let's say that this tech role, let's say it was going to be paying up to £100,000 a year, right? And it's your dream ideal tech role. It's for the dream company that you want. It's the dream kind of like style. So if it's hybrid, remote, like dream, and it's £100,000 a year is the budget. Now that's like the top, let's say. Well, let's say that you gave a number first. They said, well, I guess it depends on what you're looking for as compensation. What would you say that would be a fair value for the skill set that you're providing? And you said 40K. They've just got the biggest deal in history from you, right? Because you've undervalued yourself based on the budget that they were willing to provide you. So you should always say 60 to 85% of the range. So if it's 100K, you should ideally be saying 60 to 85K, something like that, right? Within that budget range. And then of course you then need to go ahead and justify it. And there's a very specific way of doing it, but that's ultimately the range and the numbers that you should be kind of providing or like requesting. Now, in terms of offer negotiation, it's also going to be other important information as well, not just compensation. So it's going to be about your contract, if you can sign it there and then, or you take it home to sign it, your start date, what team you're going to be placed in. I mean, technically you should already know that, I guess, but like who you're going to be working with, how big that team is, like region specific, right, and that kind of stuff, and kind of like just surrounding questions like that, right? And that is basically the 4-step process to break into tech in the next 30 days. If you can ace every single aspect of that, you will break into tech in 30 days, no problem, right? Because you now understand the full process. You understand what is expected, what is needed, and ultimately how to kind of navigate it as well. Now, there is some specifics in here as well. And I mean, by the way, guys, like if you need help with any of this, and like also I guess like the specifics as well of what to do, what to say, and that kind of stuff, what I'll do is I'll pop a link in the top of the description where you can actually book in a call with me and we can discuss how I can help you further and us potentially working together. But that is ultimately the 4 steps that you need to focus on in the next 30 days to land a high paying tech role. That is the one that you actually want to do as well. So yeah, guys, that's pretty much everything for that 4-step process. So I'll see you in the next video.